Good evening. It's something that has not happened in this province in more than 35 years.
A child has died of the measles virus. Officials say the child lived in the Hamilton area, but details about the case are scarce. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan joins us in the studio with the latest. Pauline.
Thanks very much, Michelle and Nathan. Well, we don't know the exact age of the child, but health officials say they were not immunized. And Ontario has already seen 22 cases of measles in 2024, more than tripled the total last year. The Hamilton child was under the age of 5, was not vaccinated, and had been hospitalized.
It's devastating when a child dies from particularly something that's a preventable illness, that we have good and safe vaccines that can help prevent these tragedies.
Measles symptoms typically include a runny nose, high fever, cough, red watery eyes, and a red rash lasting about 4 to 7 days. The measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is typically given at 12 months of age, with the second dose given around 4 years or before the child enters a school environment. The Public Health Ontario report from May 16th shows 22 measles cases in the province so far this year, with 2 of those cases in children under the age of 2. 7 were in kids aged 1 to 4, and there were also 7 cases in people aged 20 to 39.
This was in Ontario. It's important to remember, too, that there are over 130,000 deaths per year from measles around the world.
Dr. Isaac Bogosh says measles can infect key parts of the body like the brain and is often followed by other infections like pneumonia, which can be lethal.
Measles is a profoundly immunosuppressing virus.
Dr. Dina Kulik points to recent gaps in vaccination programs due in part to the COVID-19 pandemic.
There's lots online and social media and on the internet that says that these illnesses are quite benign, that your child will likely not get infected, that they rarely cause significant illness or death, and that simply is not true. About 1 in 1,000 children with measles will die from that illness. That is a very significant and real number.
Ontario's health ministry issued a statement today saying, "Our heart goes out to the family that has tragically lost their child. Our thoughts are with them as they navigate this challenging time." This is the first reported measles death since Ontario began keeping records 35 years ago in 1989. And measles was declared eradicated in Canada in 1998 thanks to a successful vaccination program. But the current situation has health officials concerned. So if you don't have a family doctor, you can contact your public health department to make sure you and your family are fully protected. I'm Pauline Chan. Back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Pauline. Well, it is win or go home time for PWHL Toronto. The team lost its 2-0 series lead and needs to win tonight or their season is over. CTV Sean Leithong is live in moments with more from fans gearing up for the big game.
We have some news from the Toronto Maple Leafs, who late this afternoon announced the 32nd coach in team history. The new coach is Craig Berube. He joins the Leafs after 6 seasons as the head coach of the St. Louis Blues. While there, he led the team to their first ever Stanley Cup championship. Berube's also served as the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, as well as several years as an assistant coach. Berube also spent 17 seasons playing in the NHL with 5 different teams, including the Leafs. He'll be introduced to the media here in Toronto on Tuesday.
It is the unofficial start to the summer season. Thousands heading out of the city to kick off the Victoria Day long weekend. For some, it's a chance to unwind. For others, it's a weekend full of work, preparing for months ahead. CTV's John Musselman is live tonight along the 400, watching drivers head north. Hey, John.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, we're at the en route in King City. There's the 400 just beside us here. Traffic is moving. There is a bit of a slowdown just north of King City here. Meanwhile, most of the people we're talking to here are looking forward to some nice weather and a chance to get out of the city. Traffic was moving smoothly on the northbound 400 today. There were some slowdowns in construction zones, but for the most part, no major backups. And that's good news for people getting away this long holiday weekend.
We're going to Buck Lake in the Almaguin Highlands, and we're going to Family Cottage.
Family Cottage,
yeah.
Okay, and this is first time up this year?
Yeah, first time for us up this year, yeah. First time for Emmett here, yeah, he's a month old.
I like swimming at the cottage.
What do you do there?
I play there too.
Traffic sucks. We took the extra day off and making the most of it, so 4-day weekend for us.
Wakeboarding, water skiing.
Fishing?
Yeah, fishing.
We go swimming?
Yep.
Is it cold?
Yeah, pretty cold.
And like every long weekend, the OPP will be patrolling area highways looking for aggressive and impaired drivers.
Yeah, especially on the 400, it can be pretty rough out there.
What's your approach?
Just take it easy, give lots of distance to the car in front of you.
As for gas prices, analysts say they will mostly remain stable for the long weekend. The average price of a liter of regular fuel in the GTA hovers around $1.64 a liter. Motorists say it could be worse, like it was in April when it was close to $1.79 a liter.
I'm going to visit my mother and see how she's doing on the weekend.
Oh, really? Great. You looking forward to this trip?
It's not too bad. The traffic seems fairly light so far.
We'd love to see lower prices, but we realize that you got to pay.
The weather forecast looks good, so roads and highways heading to cottage country this weekend may be busier than expected. And the OPP will not only be patrolling the highways, they'll also be working on the waterways this holiday long weekend. Reporting live, I'm John Mussum, and I'll send it back inside to you.
Thank you, John. The weather behind John, they're looking pretty nice this hour. Hey, the weather always factors into the fun, and we know the May long weekend can be iffy weather-wise, but happy to say sunshine and warmth are on tap. We just have a little unsettled weather first. Noticing the clouds there above the CN Tower. Jessica Smith, what do we have going on right now?
We saw that unsettled weather roll in mid-afternoon. Not heavy showers by any means, but you notice it outside. It's starting to dry up, the system pushing its way out as we head in towards the early part of our evening, and we will still see some cloud cover through the overnight, but getting into the day tomorrow, it gets pretty nice outside. Temperature-wise, we're still holding on to a lot of warmth and some humidex values, feeling into the 20s still. So as those folks head out on the road, the AC probably on, it'll be a little warm as we head in towards our evening. Right now through Pearson sitting at about 18, through the islands a little cooler at 15, but we're starting to see that rain dry up. And as we head through the overnight, although the chance of rain is going to linger, we stay relatively dry and kicking off the long weekend. It is fantastic. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast, including the heat this weekend. But right now, back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jessica. She was a dedicated servant of the city, first as a member of staff, then as a councillor.
Jay Robinson has died after a battle with breast cancer. Tonight, her colleagues, both current and past, are remembering her. CTV's Mike Walker is live tonight at City Hall with more. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, condolences and tributes are pouring in from current and past members of City Council who are remembering Jay Robinson for her dedication and passion. Jay Robinson is being remembered as a dedicated public servant and a champion for her community.
She has represented the Don Valley, the people of Don Valley North, tremendously well. We miss her work. We miss her passion in serving her communities and her dedication to supporting the arts and culture of this city.
The longtime city councillor for Ward 15 died last night in the presence of her family, her office said, after a lengthy illness. Robinson took a leave from council in 2019 after being diagnosed with breast cancer and returned a year later.
Jay never gave up on representing her community, representing the issues she cared about. Up until the very last days and weeks of her life, she was fighting for a city that is more beautiful, more inclusive.
Robinson was first elected to City Council in 2010. During her nearly 14 years representing Don Valley West, she served as both the chair of the TTC as well as the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee.
Jay had all the qualities that we like in people. She was honest, she was direct, she was very hardworking.
Robinson advocated for the arts, plus improvements to traffic and pedestrian safety and green space.
She was a fierce champion for her community. And outstanding for me is her commitment and dedication to Toronto's green spaces, Toronto's ravines.
She was a great public servant. I mean, she had a keen interest in the environment. She had a keen interest in keeping taxes low, which I shared with her.
Former Mayor John Tory remembers Robinson as a feisty representative for her constituents.
Even though people went some rounds with Jay Robinson and probably lost as often as they won, you could not like her. I mean, she was a likable person.
Before entering politics, Robinson was the director of special events for the city, introducing popular programs like Summerlicious, Winterlicious, and Nuit Blanche. Robinson leaves behind her husband and 3 sons.
Jay, as a mother, really defined who she was as a person. It was underlying her commitment to school safety zones and to really making sure that we have a better future for all of the children of Toronto.
Flags at City Hall and civic centers are lowered in Robinson's honor. The Toronto sign will be dimmed this evening. Books of condolences will be available at the North York Civic Centre starting tomorrow, and here at City Hall on Tuesday. Robinson's office says details about a celebration of life will be shared in the coming days. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. A pedestrian is in critical condition after being hit by a vehicle in Scarborough. The collision happened on Kennedy Road at the westbound 401 exit shortly after 10:30 last night. Police say the pedestrian was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The driver remained at the scene. There's no word yet on whether charges will be laid.
Still to come tonight, from green jacket to orange jumpsuits, why the PGA's top player ended up behind bars and has already been back on the greens, all in the span of a matter of hours. The latest on the Scotty Scheffler saga just ahead.
It is make or break time for PWHL Toronto tonight.
After a historic first season, the team will either advance to the Walter Cup finals tonight or that season will come to an end. CTV's Sean Leithong is live tonight outside Coca-Cola Coliseum with the latest. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, they need a win tonight. Their leading scorers hurt. Toronto hockey fans have been here before, but the first two games for the PWHL playoffs were something of a celebration. Now fans got to admit they're pretty nervous. The curtain is about to come up on what is the biggest game in the PWHL as crews work to prepare Coca-Cola Coliseum for a deciding Game 5 between Toronto and Minnesota. How are you feeling going into Game 5?
Nervous. I mean, I'm probably going to have a heart attack. I'm not going to lie.
Outside, fans are making their way for another expected sellout as they know the season is on the line.
It feels like two emotions together.
What are those emotions?
Happy and feeling scared.
The series started here with Toronto building a 2-0 lead, heading to Minnesota looking to sweep.
He flies wide, Liz Shepard's right, Minnesota scores!
But Minnesota flipped the script, winning both their home games, including this one in double overtime to force Game 5. Minnesota looked confident during their game day skate this morning, hoping to seize on the momentum. While Toronto coach Troy Ryan elected not to have his team skate today, telling the players to enjoy this moment.
It's much like when I say we play at Scotiabank Arena or we play at the Bell Center, to embrace it and enjoy it. I think the same thing goes for Game 5. You know, you have a one-game showdown against a very good opponent for an opportunity to go to a championship.
If Toronto is to get it done, they'll have to do it without league-leading goal scorer Natalie Spooner, who was hurt during Game 3 of the series.
They don't need to do more. They just need to bring what they're capable of bringing.
Should be a tight game. A little scary, but should be fine.
It's been an interesting series. We're hoping that Game 5 will be able to take it all.
So the stage is set. One game to move on to the finals, with the winner facing Boston to be named the first ever Walter Cup champions. So there's expected to be over 8,000 screaming fans inside Coca-Cola Coliseum tonight. You can see many of them streaming in right now. The energy is picking up, and they're hoping they can get it done. As you can hear, the crowd's starting to chant. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. Send it back inside.
Loving it. Great energy. They're going to do it. Thank you, Sean. Over in BC, officials say the province's worst fears about fires in the Northeast have not materialized, but warn they're not in the clear yet.
There is not enough rain forecasted to offset the prolonged drought conditions or extinguish the fires naturally. And the May long weekend will be a challenging situation for the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality and the Peace River Regional District.
The minister says tourists should stay away from Fort Nelson. The northern community of about 4,700 people has been evacuated for a week. Residents still there are being warned to stay on their properties so they don't hamper firefighting efforts. Meanwhile, hundreds of people who had to leave their homes in northwest Manitoba will be allowed to return on Sunday.
In Alberta, crews battling that wildfire outside Fort McMurray are getting some more help from Mother Nature.
We can all look out the window and see the rain that's coming down on us. And that Mother Nature has graced us with that, and we'll take every bit of it. And with that comes, the possibility of a different return date, but we are going to make sure that it is safe to do so.
About 10 millimeters of rain fell overnight, and more is in the forecast. The 200 square kilometer blaze remains out of control and is less than 6 kilometers from town. 6,600 people have been forced to leave.
Also in Alberta, investigators announced a major break in a series of cold case murders going back 50 years. The RCMP say they've linked the deaths of 4 young women in the 1970s to a man named Gary Serreri, an American sex offender and killer who died in an Idaho prison in 2011.
With assistance from Interpol and the Idaho State Police Forensic Services, Serreri's DNA was confirmed as a match to the unknown male DNA profile present on all 4 of our young victims.
RCMP were able to use advanced genetic techniques to identify Serreri, whose name had not come up in the investigation before. At the time of his death, he was serving a life sentence for sexual assault. Mounties say there could be more unsolved crimes linked to the killer.
In the Middle East, Israeli forces have retrieved the bodies of 3 hostages from the Gaza Strip. They were identified as Yitzhak Galertner, Shani Luke, and Amit Baskila. Israel says the 3 were killed while escaping a music festival during the deadly October 7th Hamas-led attack. 1,200 people died, and about 250 were taken hostage. About 129 hostages remain captive in Gaza.
In The Hague, Israel presented its response today after South Africa urged the World Court to order an immediate end to the attacks on Rafah.
South Africa presents the court yet again, for the 4th time within the scope of less than 5 months, with a picture that is completely divorced from the facts and circumstances. Israel is engaged in a difficult and tragic armed conflict. South Africa ignores this factual context, which is essential in order to comprehend the situation.
Israel strongly denied South Africa's allegations it is committing a genocide in Gaza. An Israeli lawyer told the UN's top court every possible effort is made to protect the civilian population. South Africa claims Israel's incursion into the southern city threatens the very survival of Palestinians in Gaza.
Aid deliveries began arriving today at a U.S.-built pier off the Gaza Strip. Trucks used the temporary floating pier to bring desperately needed supplies from a ship into the enclave. American officials say the operation could increase to 150 truckloads a day, but the UN and aid groups warn the pier is not a substitute for land deliveries. Before the war, more than 500 truckloads entered the territory daily. Israeli restrictions on border crossings and heavy fighting are hindering the delivery of food and other supplies.
There were deadly attacks in Ukraine today. 1 person was killed, 8 others were injured in a strike on Odessa. The Black Sea port has been hit frequently since Russia invaded. In Kharkiv, 3 people were killed and 28 were injured in an attack. The northeastern city has been struck many times, but the attacks have been more intense, hitting civilian and energy infrastructure.
The world's top-ranked golfer was arrested today, charged with second-degree assault of a police officer.
Scottie Scheffler was taken into custody on his way to the PGA Championship for not following police orders. CTV's Garrett Berry reports.
Scottie Scheffler has been at the top of the golfing world. He went into this week with 4 wins in his last 5 tournaments, but this morning, a stunning arrest just outside the golf course.
I'm back.
Captured by an ESPN journalist, the golf superstar taken away in handcuffs before dawn.
Okay, he's going to jail, and it ain't nothing you can do about it.
In their incident report, Louisville police said Scheffler refused to stop for an officer who was directing traffic. Instead, accelerated forward, dragging Detective Gillis to the ground. The officer brought to hospital for cuts and swelling to his wrist and knee. Traffic outside the course was slowed this morning because of a fatal collision between a pedestrian and a shuttle bus. After his mugshot was taken, Scheffler was released without bail and returned to the course about 3 hours after his arrest. He's facing charges of second-degree assault of a police officer. He said in a statement, it was all a big misunderstanding.
My situation will get handled. It was just it was a chaotic situation and a big misunderstanding.
He teed off at about 10 a.m. local time, birdieing his first hole. The soft-spoken golfer from Texas is having a massive year. He had a baby earlier this month, and some analysts say Scheffler is on a dominant run, not seen in golf since Tiger Woods was in his prime.
Nothing will ever touch
what happened this morning. And the crazy thing, too, is one of the owners of the Valhalla Country Club actually picked him up and drove him to the golf course. So just a strange morning.
I did spend some time stretching in a jail cell. That was a first for me. That was part of my warm-up. I was just sitting there waiting, and I started going through my warm-up. I felt like there was a chance I may be able to still come out here and play, and so.
In his statement, Scheffler said he never intended to disregard any police instructions. He also said that he and all the other golfers at the PGA Championship are thinking of the family of the man who was killed in that earlier collision. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
The man convicted of attempting to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and attacking her husband has been sentenced to 30 years in prison. David DePape admitted he broke into the Pelosi's San Francisco home in 2022, intending to hold the former House Speaker hostage. He also admitted hitting Paul Pelosi with a hammer after police showed up. Pelosi suffered a fractured skull that was mended with plates and screws he'll have for the rest of his life. Nancy Pelosi was not home at the time. She was in Washington.
The U.S. State Department has issued a worldwide alert amid possible threats against the LGBTQ2S+ community. Officials say they are aware of increased potential for violence against LGBTQ2S+ people and events inspired by foreign terrorist organizations. American citizens overseas are being urged to exercise heightened caution. This alert comes 2 weeks before the start of Pride Month in the United States.
The King is scheduled to travel to France next month for ceremonies marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. The monarch and his wife Camilla are expected to attend a commemoration at the British Normandy Memorial on June 6th. But they will not be at a larger international event as the King continues to be treated for cancer. The Prince of Wales will stand in his place. William will also attend the Canadian ceremony at the Juno Beach Centre.
Spirited debate in Parliament is a good thing, but have a look at what happened when tensions boiled over today in Taiwan. Politicians shoved, tackled, and even hit each other over a dispute about reforms to the chamber. Even before the voting started, some lawmakers screamed and shoved each other outside. This melee happened just days before the president-elect takes office without a legislative majority.
Coming up, the federal government says no to Toronto's request for drug decriminalization. We'll tell you what the city's asking the province for to help tackle the toxic drug crisis.
We're stepping into the unofficial start of the summer season with the May long weekend in a really beautiful way. Temperatures into the 20s and a humidex value right across the board. And of course, some sunshine. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long range forecast, including what you can expect downtown. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
The federal government has now officially refused a request from Toronto Public Health to decriminalize personal possession of controlled drugs. This news came late today in a statement from the federal Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
But the issue of how best to deal with the drug crisis remains. And without decriminalization, the city is now seeking additional supports from the province. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
The flurry of letters began with a note to Toronto's top doctor, sent by Ontario's Minister of Health and Solicitor General.
And we don't want to have a failed experiment happen right here in our Toronto.
Taking a firm stand against Toronto's application to decriminalize possession of small quantities of drugs.
I will fight this tooth and nail.
Next, a missive from the Premier to the Prime Minister, demanding a review of safe supply sites and to require buy-in from provinces, like Justin Trudeau said mattered for decriminalization.
We need to work with all partners, including provinces, on any proposals.
Then the mayor's office got to typing.
I'm releasing a letter
asking other levels of government to collaborate to tackle the drug toxicity epidemic killing 500 Torontonians a year.
I think we need to look at the person rather than the substance itself.
The letter includes a list of things Toronto would like help with.
24/7 crisis beds in the city. Because right now our emergency are inundated with people who are suffering from addictions.
The letter also calls for teamwork on expanded access to treatment for all kinds of substance use, more supportive housing, wraparound social supports and referrals, and evaluation and monitoring to lead to permanent long-term funding. Moyes can't say what all of this might cost.
But I can say to you, doing nothing actually costs us more. It affects our hospitals, it affects our shelters, it affects all our programming.
Right down to clean up for parks.
A third of the people that are homeless, that are in our shelters, want drug treatment program.
Moyes pleads with the province to look at what's working when it comes to safe supply.
The programs we have in Toronto right now has saved thousands of lives. And without it, it would be a lot worse.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Investors watching the social media accounts of the so-called crypto king are still seeing regular posts and are worried his displays of wealth are signs he's spending their money even now.
And as CTV's John Woodward reports, another large expense tied to Aiden Pleterski has triggered another lawsuit looking for thousands more.
In the hours after police announced fraud and money laundering charges against self-styled crypto king Aiden Pleterski, he was posting on social media.
We're talking a young person who clearly likes to have fun, who wants to spend money, who enjoys flashy and fine things.
Impossible to say when these videos were recorded, but social media was a crucial megaphone for Pleterski as he solicited investors in 2022, showing off a lifestyle of Lamborghinis, private jets, and international travel.
Rolexes are a great investment.
When he couldn't make good on more than $40 million of his investors' money, he was forced into bankruptcy by Ontario courts. Then he was kidnapped, allegedly by 5 men, including one investor.
It was extremely gratifying, to say the least, to see the charges.
A lawyer for some of the investors says Pleterski's social media presence has also been a window into his lifestyle during his bankruptcy proceedings. This video posted from a yacht, supposedly in Miami.
Everyone was wondering, where are the funds coming from?
In one case, the trustee report says it questioned Pleterski on online displays of wealth. He said it was not real. He manufactured the appearance of being in possession of these digital assets, though the trustee has not been able to confirm that. Creditors have received about $3.15 million so far. Of that, about $900,000 came from Pleterski's parents, who also put up his $100,000 bail.
We are taking crypto fraud seriously, and we are taking Ponzi schemes seriously. And I think that has to do with the really serious dollar amount that he's alleged to have defrauded from a number of investors over time.
We did reach out to his criminal lawyer, who says at this point we have no comment to make. Investors are not the only ones looking for money. A previously unreported lawsuit shows another company claiming to be left in the lurch, saying Pleterski rented some $18,000 worth of portable toilets from Super Safe Rentals delivered to the mansion he used to rent on the Burlington waterfront. Claiming he still owes about $6,000, Pleterski never filed a statement of defense. Pleterski's bail conditions include not going to an airport, and he has to leave his passport with the police, curtailing some travel.
There's a very clear undertone in those restrictions of don't spend the money that's not yours.
The next hearing in Pleterski's bankruptcy is on June 6th, where he will face more questions about the money that his social media presence doesn't answer. John Woodward, CTV News.
Insurance claims for stolen vehicles in Canada hit a new record last year. New data released by the Insurance Bureau of Canada shows that in 2023, claims for replacing stolen vehicles skyrocketed to $1.5 billion, a 254% increase from 2018. It was the second straight year that claims topped $1 billion. Ontario is seeing the most significant jump in thefts, with costs of claims rising 524% from 2018 to 2023.
Toronto's mayor was among those who gathered to celebrate the International Day against homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia.
Traditionally, the City of Toronto have a history of standing firm and ahead of other government, actually, to whether it's raising the flags or changing policies or celebrating because love happens.
At City Hall, the Pride Progress flag was raised to mark the day. The event was organized by the Toronto chapter of PFLAG, an organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ2S+ people and their families. This year's theme is No One Left Behind: equality, freedom, and justice for all.
Large crowds are expected to gather for fireworks on Ashbridges Bay Monday to wrap up the holiday weekend. The nearly 50-minute show is set to get underway at around 10 p.m. Officials are warning the public to be aware of major traffic delays, road closures, and limited parking in the area all weekend. Toronto police also say they'll be stepping up enforcement at the beach. And Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan will hold its fireworks show Sunday at 10 p.m. when the park closes. The city of Hamilton will also put on a display Sunday at Dundas Driving Park with free admission.
Getting to the Toronto Islands will be easier. As of today, the ferry schedule has now changed over from the spring to summer schedule. The new schedule includes 22 round trips each day from the Jack Layton Terminal to Center Island. Ferry service will begin at 8 a.m. with the last ferry returning to the mainland at 11:45 p.m. There's also increased service to Hanlan's Point and towards Island. As in previous years, you could buy tickets in advance online. And speaking of water, the city's splash pads are open as of today. They'll be open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily throughout the summer. 10 outdoor pools are scheduled to open on June 15th on a partial schedule, while the rest will open on June 22nd. And wading pools open June 28th. Splash pads, pools, signs of summer. It's so exciting.
It's great. It's the long weekend, and there's lots to do. The unofficial start of summer as well, and hopefully the weather cooperates.
It will, and then some. We just have to get through the rest of today first. We've seen a few scattered showers, nothing major throughout the day today, but heading into the weekend, it gets sunny and it gets hot. So this is your reminder now. Pack the sunscreen and drink lots of water. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've seen that little bit of drizzle throughout the day today, but it's mostly moved out. Still some lingering showers in the east end of the city in eastern Ontario, but temperature-wise, it is mild. For example, up towards Red Lake along that border with Manitoba, they're at 19. They're warmer than we are here in the downtown core. We're sitting at 17, Ottawa at 23, and Windsor at 22. Heading into our evening, we hold on to a lot of that warmth. We have a pretty light easterly wind for the majority of this evening. We'll sit at 15. We should be at 10, and everybody across the board holding on to a significant amount of warmth. So it's a bit of a muggy, kind of damp evening, but into the day tomorrow, a very seasonal start. Still some cloud cover into our Saturday morning, along with the slight chance of showers early on, a little cloud cover, and then sun into the afternoon, and then heading throughout the rest of the weekend, quite beautiful. The bulk of that shower activity continues to push out as we head through the rest of our evening, and behind it, a reprieve, a break from all of the rain that we've seen throughout the day today across southern Ontario. Timing it all out as we head through the rest of our evening. By about 9 p.m., the bulk of this rain will push its way out. And as we head throughout the rest of our day tomorrow, we'll see that cloud cover again in the morning, and then it clears up into the afternoon. We could still see maybe a light drizzle here and there. That's just that humidity kind of sitting over us, creating that chance for maybe a pop-up shower across parts of cottage country. But for the most part, we stay relatively dry. Heading in towards our Sunday, more of the same. A lot of sunshine, a lot of warmth. Heat stroke can kind of sneak up on you. I know we're not quite into summer officially just yet, but start thinking of that mindset of hydration, water, and breaks in the shade, and checking on the vulnerable people in your life and your pets too. Temperature-wise, again, we're pretty close to seasonal as we head into the day tomorrow. That overnight low for the next 5 to 7 days, again, above that seasonal norm of about 10 degrees. Sunday, Monday, 25, 26, those lows, 16, 17. It is warm, it is sunny, and it is going to be one of those types of long weekends. You want to spend time outside, but you got to do it safely. Heading in towards Tuesday, a little cloud cover rolls in, but we stay at 25 degrees, 15 for the low, and getting in towards Wednesday, all that heat and humidity, we're getting to that time of year where that just bubbles up the chance of some shower activity. Getting in towards your Thursday and Friday, though, it dries up and we stay at or above seasonal. Pretty nice. Send things back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, Dogman is hitting the stage. The best-selling story and comic book tale is now a musical. Find out why this crime-fighting canine is an absolute treat for the kids.
If you have a child, you're probably familiar with the series Dogman, but actor Brandon James Baturovich does not and was not.
I got called in and said, hey, we want you to come read for the role of Dogman in Dogman the Musical. And I was like, Dogman? What is Dogman? I had no idea what this is. And then I, did my research and learned that it was from Dave Pilkey, who wrote Captain Underpants. And we all know Captain Underpants. So once I learned that, I was like, I know these characters. I need to be in this show.
Now he's fully involved. What is Dogman?
Dogman, what is Dogman? Dogman is, he has the head of a dog and the body of a cop, and he's out there fighting crime when he's not chewing on the furniture.
Sadie Jane Kennedy plays Dogman's nemesis, a cat named Petey. The energy she brings to the stage comes from her lifelong love of the craft, in spite of challenges she's faced off stage.
Like, there's so much pressure, especially going into like your teenage years from other kids and stuff like that. It's really, really hard to stay true to who you are and not care about what other people think. It's something that I struggled with even. I wanted to not do it. I wanted to give up. But I just knew in my heart that there was nothing else that made me happier.
And that happiness is felt by the children in the audience.
Hey, Butters. They say a dog is a man's best friend, but I think we need to change that saying to a person's best friend. And one of the best things about Dogman is that, come here, Butters, it introduces kids to musical theater for the very first time.
His head is fuzzy, but his body is the fuzz. Dogman!
A lot of times when we get to meet kids, they're always like, I love this movie. They refer to this as a movie,
Yeah.
which we find really cute. But I think they are surprised to see that all this stuff is just happening just a couple feet away from them. You know?
They're just so completely engaged.
Yeah.
We've had kids stand up right in the third row and dance along with us.
Who's a good cop? Who's a good cop?
Peturovich has donned the mask and cape for almost 5 years.
I love the reaction from the kids. I get to be their superhero, and as an actor, I love that. You know, I play Dogman, and to me, that's the coolest gig in the world.
Holy Dogman!
Dogman the Musical is on stage now at the CAA Theater until June 9th.
Part dog, part man, all hero!
Andrea Case, CTV News.
When a child dies from particularly something that's a preventable illness, that we have good and safe vaccines that can help prevent these tragedies.
Jay never gave up on representing her community, representing the issues she cared about. Up until the very last days and weeks of her life, she was fighting for a city that is more beautiful, more inclusive.
They don't need to do more, they just need to bring what they're capable of bringing.
Both the TSX and the Dow Jones Industrial Average finished the week in record territory. The Dow closed above 40,000 for the first time ever, while the TSX surged as gold prices hit a new record. Now, part of what was fueling the rally is a cooling of inflation south of the border. While it still remains above the central bank's target, core inflation grew at the slowest pace in 3 years. In fact, the number of companies even mentioning inflation on conference calls has also dipped to the lowest level in 3 years. While many of the meme stocks like GameStop and AMC melted down to end the week, the broad market held up quite well. Now let's take a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar advanced to around 73 cents US, while oil prices also went up to around $79 per barrel. Canadian energy prices also advancing to just under $67 per barrel. And as I mentioned, a big update on the TSX closing at a record high. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Canwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
It was awesome. The crowd was absolutely electric. I heard all you guys during the 100 breaststroke, and it really kept me going, so thank you.
Just 2 days after this tiny library went up in Mount Pleasant, someone cut it down.
My heart, I can't tell you, I was so emotional because I know how much she's put into this.
She is Carol Berman's longtime friend Gisela, who's lived in this neighborhood for over 30 years.
And she said, wouldn't it be wonderful if I had a tiny library of my own? And I said, why don't you go for it?
The 87-year-old paid to have it built and was there with Berman when it was installed Monday on public property near the Federal Store at 10th and Quebec.
And she is delighted. It is her legacy. She is so excited about this. She's just happy, happy, happy.
But Wednesday morning, it was found like this, cut down, the base removed with a note attached that read, Federal Store, put this on your own property.
Did it surprise you that somebody did that?
I mean, yeah, I feel like we have a really good relationship with lots of the residents, like all the residents. Like, this was, yeah, quite shocking.
I mean, it's just a little box of books, you know. And I mean, that one's really cute. I don't know why you'd want to remove it.
Berman agonized over how to tell Gisela.
I went last night to her apartment and I had to tell her. And it was heartbreaking, her response. She was in shock. She was devastated, and we just shed a few tears together.
Gisela doesn't get out much, so neighborhood residents made her this poster thanking her for the tiny library and vowing to put it back up.
She is going to be so touched by it. I can't imagine. This is going to lift her spirits so high.
And her legacy will live on. There are plans to reinstall Gisela's tiny library in front of the Federal Store.
We have permission from the gentleman that owns the building that we're going to put the tiny library around the front.
I think that's great. I go to those little libraries whenever I see them, and I'm here all the time, so I'm happy about that.
That's all Gisela wanted, free books for everyone in the community she calls home. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.